Welcome to The Truth in His Heart. I am your host, Rob Lee. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to this channel so you never miss one of these great interviews, these great podcasts. So today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Tiffany Holmes, a digital media artist and the Chief Academic Officer of the Maryland Institute College of Art, MICA. Welcome to the podcast, Tiffany Holmes.
Thank you, Rob. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you on. I think this is going to be great. We're going to talk a little bit about upcoming events and some of your work at MICA. So let's get right into it. If you will, give us those vital stats. What does it look like to be an academic officer, chief academic officer? I don't know what that entails.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know what a provost does, but I will tell you, a provost during a pandemic, it is a very tough job because we're just trying to create a lower risk environment for all of our students who want to be here at MICA, in our shops, being their best creative selves. So I am overseeing, our undergraduate and graduate programs and ensuring that we are offering our students the very best art and design education that we can.
And obviously, MICA has just a great reputation, and you're an alum coming back too. So speak on how that looks in navigating being a person with experience going through the college and kind of serving the students in the capacity that you are now.
Yeah, it's a great question, Rob. So I lived in Baltimore in the early 90s, and I got connected with MICA because I was working at Canton Middle School as an art teacher over in Highlandtown. And I was really struggling with how I could improve myself creatively. I wanted to expand my own skill set. And I knew about MICA's reputation, and I met Karen Carroll, who has since retired from the school. She was the dean of art education for a while here. And she turned me on to a summer program that still exists. It's called the MFAST program at MICA, and it's specifically designed for people who want to get their MFAs who might have other family or work commitments during the year. Sure. So they run a very intensive summer institute with visiting artists and critics. And two of my advisors from the program, one is retired, but one still works at MICA. And it's wonderful to see these individuals in a new capacity. I have great love for the school as a student, but I will tell you, my studio was in the Fox building, which at the time was not air conditioned. And I watched my paint literally roll down the canvas and fall onto the ground. So I had kind of an involuntary Jackson Pollock drip going in my paintings in the summers here in Baltimore. Oh, no. I'm pleased to report that in my second year here in 2019, the whole heating and air conditioning system was replaced in Fox. So students are living in air-conditioned comfort now in their studios.
It's almost like back in my day. You kids have it great. You artists have it great. So the role as an administrator at this college, in MICA, and pretty much, I feel like the majority of people that are visual artists that I've had on this podcast, MICA comes through and it's all right, can we, it's in there, it's great. So how are you these days? You touched on back in the day with the heating situation, air conditioning situation. How do you satiate your creative soul now being in an administrator kind of role?
Such a good question. So one of the things that I used to work up in Chicago at a different school, the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and I loved my time there. And I was a faculty and practicing exhibiting artist. I was a media artist, traveled all over the world, but coding for art is a very lonely late night activity. I would stay up late at night and wrestle with code. And it really fed my soul when I was invited to come into an interim dean position to work with a team of incredibly diverse and talented people and work together on shared projects with sometimes 2 and 3 years timelines to substantially change the institution. Sure. So when I interviewed for the position at MICA and I met our president, Sammy Hoy, and I heard more about his vision for MICA, MICA has a very, very ambitious mission and vision, which we have not yet lived up to, but we have an aspirational plan. And when I heard about Sammy's vision to forge these partnerships with entities in Baltimore and have our students really gain an integrative education where the classroom became a site of hands-on learning, professional practice where they could actually do projects out in the field. This really sold me because I love art and design education. I had parents, neither of them were artists, and they're like, oh, it's great that you love painting, but you should go to school and something you can get a job in. And I'm sure there's students at MICA who have the same kind of parents. And I love art and design education. And thanks to the rise of cell phone technology, we live in this incredibly visually and sonically mediated world. And our students are going to be the content producers of their generation. And there are jobs aplenty in this arena. And one of the exciting things about being an administrator now is I get to work with an incredible faculty, incredible staff to realize these kinds of longer term visionary projects. And that's really what brought me to Baltimore. But it's true. I don't paint much anymore, but I have two beautiful children. And when they pull out the watercolors, I love to paint with them.
That's great.
And, it's, I think with the high pressure administrative roles, you have to be really present and have a very strong work ethic, but you have to be able to turn it off. So I'm really grateful for my family and hiking in the woods, watercolor painting with my kids. I do love it. Cooking, very important pastime to reconnect with, I would say, a smaller world than the world of MICA.
Yeah, balance is key. Balance is huge. I used to get the same kind of response of because I had the opportunity to attend, I think it was business and design, and learn a little bit more about one of the cohorts that was there. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. This is really unique and useful to just in conversations I've had with different guests on like, hey, I would love to have some of these real kind of like cases to really work with and understand where this ultimately goes. And being a creative early on, doing murals and comics and drawing all of that stuff. And I just remember my parents were like, you should get a job and, look for business administration, get rid of that art thing. So being able to combine the two and have like input in the two, that's huge and that's useful. So I'll be remiss without talking about this upcoming event in the last few questions we have here. Tell me about that. I read a little bit about this event called the Art of Racing. So if you could tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. This is a brand new partnership that we have with FIRST and the upcoming Pimlico race. And this organization has worked with MICA to create a signature once-a-year contest to create a two-dimensional image that celebrates the practice of thoroughbred racing in Maryland. Yeah. And what's really cool about this is at the Pimlico racetrack, now I haven't been there to see them, and this is on my list of things to do this spring. There are a set of murals that were created by a MICA faculty who sadly passed away earlier this year, Raoul Middleman. He was beloved, but he too had this practice of integrating what I will call classroom education with real world experience. And he took his students out to Pimlico and had them paint the murals out there that are still there. And I'm so glad to have this partnership and offer this kind of a contest and for the first time and see what our students come up with. And I also must mention that it's open to anyone in Maryland, any age. The deadline is March 1st. So get drawing, get painting, get collaging. There's a lot of time for you to express your inner thoroughbred. And the winning entry will be the prize is $4,000. So it's a wonderful financial award for a student or whomever runs the award. And we're really excited about it as a recurring contest. I should also say the winner gets 2 tickets to the race this spring.
Yeah. And I love that it's kind of echoing and kind of going back into this notion that we're part of the Triple Crown. Like we need to really, put that out there. I think that often gets missed.
It's a really important part of Baltimore history that we're definitely a part of. And I think art and design can definitely be a part of this. Yeah.
Definitely combining the culture and showing that, what ultimately I think this podcast aims to do is kind of show we need to really celebrate what we have going on here. And, we're steeped in having that history with horse racing, the Preakness and Pimlico, all of that great stuff. And we have one of the, if not the most prestigious art college in at least the East Coast here. So it's two great tastes taste great together. Let's do it.
That is exactly right. So I have no idea, what will come from the contest, but we've worked out a system where audience voters will pick the top 10 artworks. And then we're assembling a distinguished jury, Dr. Leslie King Hammond, who's emeritus faculty at MICA, and Dr. Lowry Sims are two who are going to be jurying the final pieces.
And hopefully the beginning of something really huge to continue moving into the future. Lastly, I guess this will be the abbreviated version of my shameless plug section, but where can folks, listeners and all find out more information? Is there a website? Is it directly on MICA's social media? Where would they find that information?
Yeah, I would just say for more about the art of racing, head to preakness.com.
So yeah, that's great. Come in with the good news. So thank you so much. This was abbreviated, but this was great. And I want to thank you for sharing and being able to have that flexibility. I love it. So thank you, Tiffany, for coming on to this podcast. And so I want to wrap up here for Tiffany Holmes of MICA. I am Rob Lee saying that there is art in and around Baltimore. You just have to look for it.